All right. In this particular video, we're going to look at uploading your model into the Augment online system. So you should make sure before you try to do this that you have actually registered for your free login and then upgraded your account to an education account. You should have done that probably at the beginning of the project, but you need to make sure that that is taken care of now since you'll be using it. Otherwise, a lot of functionality will not be available to you that you will need to complete the project. All right. So for this part, again, we're going to be leveraging our web browser to upload our final work. We're not going to be using Blender for this exercise because we're done in Blender. So I'm just going to close out Blender, minimize Photoshop, and to start off, to do this right, we're going to locate our output files that we created in Blender, or we created our exports. So I'm going to go to my output folder, and I'm going to locate both my DAE file and the JPEG copy of my textures that belong to that file. So they should both be in the same place. But I'm going to select them both and send them to a zip folder. So to do that, you can just select both of them. You can go up to the cogwheel, or you can right-click on them and go to Compress to Items if you're on a Mac. When you do that, it'll create a little archive over here. Probably be good not to name it archive in case you do this more than once. So I'm just going to make sure I name it what I need to. I'm just going to call it 3D model for now. And then from here, what we're going to do is go to our browser and log into Augment. So I'm going to go to my browser, and I'm going to go to Augment. And as far as logging in, when you get to their main homepage, again for augment.com, I'm going to go to Login. And my login information is already stored, so it just pulled me straight into it. But this is what the model manager looks like when you initially log into the system. So it shows you a list of everything that you've ever uploaded into Augment, every model you put in. And we're going to use this box right here that shows up at the front, says Add Model. If it's your first time, this is the only box you'll see available on the screen. So I'm going to click on Add Model. And it actually tells you here what you can add. So we're going to go to Add. And I'm going to go into my project folder, go to my outputs, and grab my zip that I just created and hit open. And it'll start the upload process for putting that into Augment. You should want to name your 3D model in case you put more than one in here. If you're like doing testing to get this thing right, you can call it like test number 1 to get it started. Category should probably be under educational. Privacy. Make sure that your privacy setting here is actually set to public. The reason that's important is that a public model can actually be scanned and read by anyone that has your tracking image. So you can pull it up anywhere in the world. It's kind of cool. So we're going to have privacy set to public. And I'm going to go to my next category box here, which is dimensions. Now keep in mind, if you did not upgrade your account to the educational status, a lot of this stuff is not going to be available. And if you don't see it the first time that you upload a model, that's okay. Usually it's a registered error. You save and publish, and then you go back into edit, which I'll show you in a second. So I'll go to dimensions. And under dimensions, we're just going to check. This is where we confirm the dimensions of our model. So the measurement system, you want to use whatever you based your model on in Blender. It's for inches. And then for dimensions, you want it to fit to where it can be viewed over the top of your print image. Your print image is only an 8 by 10. So when we're viewing your model, it doesn't need to be much bigger than an 8 by 10 inch area. So whenever it's looking at dimensions, it's thinking of the overall dimensions of your piece are correct. So I'm just going to put in an overall bounding box dimension of like 12 inches for it to fit inside of. Now when I'm done with that, I can click on Advanced if I want to. You'll notice there's other things you can set for your model in here. You don't really have to have any of this necessary. You can link your model back to a web page, so if you want to link it back to your portfolio page, that might be nice to include your website here. Under display, everything should be set for you already. It'll include lighting, shadow casting, an environmental map, and bump maps if it applies to your model. And now I can hit save and publish up in the top in big red letters up here, or big red box. When you do that, it's going to come back to your model manager, and it's going to show you this little screen box here that says 3D model, whatever name of your object was you added. And it wants you to make sure that you've made the settings correct for the model. So it's looking at the units that you selected and the size that you inputted, and it's trying to make the model fit within that dimensional area, the maximum dimension. So my model, when I scan it and pop it up, it's going to be a 10-inch by 13-inch by 4-inch size model that will pop up in front of my tracker virtually. If that's good, we just confirm it by hitting confirm unit. And then it'll pop up a little preview here. And if we want to, we can actually preview what our model looks like if you have the Augment app installed on either like an iOS or Android-based device, like a tablet or a smartphone. You can use those with the Augment app to pull up the work for yourself. So to do that, if you ever want to preview it here, they have a little eyeball icon below your model. You can click that. It'll pull up a temporary thumbprint scannable QR code, and you can scan it with the Augment app, and it will pull up the model on screen accordingly. And that way you can actually preview it and see if it's actually oriented correctly. If not, then you can come back to this pencil icon right here, and that's your edit feature, to where you can come back in and change like dimensional qualities or other basic model settings. And then you can click on save and publish again. If you don't like what the model looks like right now, like maybe your textures didn't import or you forgot to include them, you can just trash it by hitting the trash can icon. They also have a share icon here, which is kind of fun. So you can actually you can get like a link to it to put it on your website for people to view it through the Augment app. You can email a copy to yourself or post it to a social feed. So that's kind of a fun thing that you can add to it as far as working with the model on other applications. All right, so we got the model in. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to link the model up to a tracking image so that we can actually scan and pull it up. So what we're going to use is that image we created in Photoshop. And to add the tracker, while we're in here, we're going to go to this little side menu on the left, and we're going to select the option that says My Trackers. And it says All Trackers, so just click on that. And that pulls up your tracker menu. You can actually see in here some previews of what other tracking images have looked like. So this is just the same thing. If I scan this, it'll actually pull this model up right now. But that's what it'll look like when it's in here. So we're going to use this button that says Add Tracker. And then I'm going to go into my output folder for my project and select my 4-angle view, open it. And again, you should probably label this in case you change it. So I'm just going to call it 4-angle view test 1. Image width is important that you get this right. It should be set to inches, and you want it to be the same width as your printout of your tracker image. So your tracker is going to be an 8.5 by 11. So your width ought to be able to match whatever that is. So if you had a horizontal tracker, then make sure that it's an 11-inch width. If it was a vertical image, then it needs to be 8.5 inches. But it uses that number to make sure it can read your model and pull it up at the correct scale. After you set that, you slide down to where it says Link To. You can select 3D Model, and then use the drop-down where it says Choose 3D Model. And you want to grab whatever one you imported that's listed here. The newest model, if you've been adding a lot of them to play around in here, the newest one always appears at the very bottom. Select that. And you have to do this if you want us to be able to pull it up on critique day, okay? Otherwise, we're just going to be looking at your little 4-angle view, and that's about it. Hit save and publish. And it will have it connected. This is where it registers it in all of its server systems so that it's available worldwide or through the web anywhere whenever someone scans it. It takes about 10 minutes for it to connect the tracker through the web to the model at this stage. So this is something that you don't want to do last minute. This is something that you want to test and try out prior to critique day if you can help it. So again, that'll take time to register that up and pull up the image and have it ready. But your tracker is now in the system and locked into your model. And so when you have that, now what we can do to preview it, obviously when this is done, it'll pop up the image and it'll look just like this other image on screen for me. And I can hit the eyeball to see that the image was uploaded correctly, so it shouldn't look like it had any errors. And I can scan this with the mobile app to pull up the finished image. And if the model pulls up in the correct orientation, which if I'm looking at it like this, when my model pulls up, it should be standing up straight in front of me, facing towards me at this angle if I scan it on my screen. That's the correct orientation for the model, standing up and facing towards you. It should not be protruding off of or standing on top of the print, so to speak, but the print should act like a back wall. And if all of that looks great, then you're good to go. If for some reason your model does not show up in the correct orientation, then you need to go back into Blender and you need to go and double check that your model was rotated in the correct direction. So in the top view, it should be looking as though it's standing up and facing towards you. That's the most accurate way to check that your model is showing up correctly. So if it's not doing that, then yeah, you're going to have a problem when you get to Augment with it. But that's how you get it set up and posted into the system. And then you'll be able to test it after that to have it ready for critique day. All right. After that, the only other things you have to worry about on the back end is printing out your 4-angle view and mounting it onto a map board and making a printout of your artist statement. And again, make sure your artist statement is separate from your board. Do not stick it onto the back. It should be a separate printout. All right. That'll conclude the final project submission exercise. There are other details on there, like what files you need to upload onto Blackboard. They're listed at the bottom of the exercise, so please pay attention to those when you finish this particular part. All right, that'll be it.